Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
I am going to start this off. And welcome to our wonderful session on women and spirituality. We have 4 amazing women lined up here to share their experience with you. And we're going to lead off with Tash Hildebrand-Lockie. And Tash is the author of The Patriarchy Illusion, a down-to-earth guide to spiritual feminism, the self-connection. She is a there you go, a self-connection life coach and a women's circle facilitator. She believes that when women come together, there is an enormous opportunity to uplift and heal not just each other, but our entire society and planet as well. And her session is spiritual feminism and healing the patriarchy within. So, Tash, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Deb. It's a real honor to be here. So thank you for having me. And before I get into my talk of what is spiritual feminism and how we can heal the patriarchy within, I thought I would share the story of how these concepts came into my life, because I haven't always been a spiritual feminist, although I've been a lifelong feminist. So it sort of happened for me. My previous life and career was as a sustainability professional. I guess I've always felt very connected to the earth, and climate change has always been a concern for me. So I decided early on that I would dedicate my career to helping the planet in the best way that I can. And I've been working in sustainability for around a decade. And I was feeling, this is about 5 years ago, and I was feeling quite disheartened because I felt that I was working really hard, writing lots of reports and, doing all the things in the corporate world / government world. And it really felt like I was just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. My work and energy wasn't necessarily doing anything to really help the planet in the way that I wanted to, even though looking back now, I was probably too hard on myself, and I think my work did help in some way. But it was at my first women's circle that I attended. At that point, I wasn't too along the spiritual path. And I talk about it in my book, my experience at my first women's circle and how enlightening it was for me to experience this sense of connection and oneness with other women without any sense of competition or comparisonitis, which can afflict us so much in our normal lives. No matter who we are and what we do. And so for me, that was a very enlightening experience. And that was sort of my first step on this path, I suppose. And at the end of, and so I was at a festival and I attended a lot of women's circles at this festival because I love them so much. It was very different from me of what I'd experienced before that. And after one of the circles, I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed to the spirit of the planet, to Gaia. Going to get a little bit emotional. Sorry. Thank you. And my prayer was, what can I do that's going to be genuinely helpful? What can I do to genuinely help? And of course, nothing happened straight away, but really from that prayer was my life really went in a really completely different direction from there. I guess I'd been coming into helping the planet and connecting to the planet from, I guess, a masculine way of thinking, a masculine energy way of thinking, of trying to put solar panels on roofs and which is important, of course. I don't want to devalue that work. It's very important to do the practical things, but I guess from that prayer from Gaia, I didn't know that would begin my path along the spiritual feminism journey, and writing my book, becoming a women's circle facilitator after that, because I wanted to bring the experience that I'd had in circle with women to women that I knew in Melbourne, where I was living at the time, particularly professional women that perhaps weren't exposed to these spiritual ideas and experiences. So that's kind of really how it began for me. It was not a logical thing. It was a real heart prayer, which is why I'm so thrilled to be part of this amazing festival, because it's so heart based and coming together as one, which was what I really wanted and my intention. So that's how it began. Little did I know that would then result in me writing a book. That never crossed my mind that was a possibility. And I guess what I really go into in the book and my work now is really looking at the patriarchy within. So much amazing work has been done by feminists for a long, long time, deconstructing patriarchy externally. And that's so important. That's such important work. And I'm so grateful and thankful for all of that work. So I see spiritual feminism as another piece of the puzzle. It's another tapestry. It's certainly not trying to compete with all the other brands of feminism, because that's a patriarchal trap within itself, trying to be the best form of feminism or something. So I see it as really additional, and it's looking at how patriarchy impacts us internally, in our minds, in our ways of interacting with each other, the beliefs we can hold about ourselves, and how we can ultimately heal that. So it's really lovely and heartening for me that so many people are talking about patriarchy now. When I first started writing the book, it was almost like this taboo topic. You couldn't talk about it, and it was quite frightening, which is understandable given the suppression of women and the feminine throughout history, ancestrally as well as past lives, the persecution that we've experienced for trying to show a new way. But now, a few years later, it's like everyone wants to talk about it, and it's really heartening. So people are talking about it in different ways and internalize patriarchy in different ways. But the way I really am contributing to the discussion, and the way my book talks about it, is looking at hierarchies and internalized hierarchies. Because I guess the energy of patriarchy is very hierarchical. Man superior to woman, human superior to nature. And we see this sort of same mentality and energy, I guess, play out within white supremacy as well, of white skin over black, or people of color, or Indigenous people, etc. As well as colonialism as well, which is obviously so important. All the decolonialization work that's happening all around the world, but I guess it's close to my heart here in Australia, of how we can support and heal that wound with our Indigenous people, that is also based on this hierarchical mentality of colonizers coming in and having a superior mentality to people that were already here, and their wisdom and their ways of knowing and ways of living in harmony with the planet, which is such deep wisdom that is starting to come through and feel safe to come through now. So I suggest my book is really looking at this hierarchical mentality from an individual perspective, because I believe that the work we do on ourselves energetically ripples out in ways that our minds cannot understand or even fathom, but it's important nonetheless. And so I think that all the work that we can do to deconstruct our own hierarchical mentalities really helps so much with healing, with disarming and healing the patriarchy within, and then helping on that really macro scale of helping to bring harmony to the planet and to everyone that lives here. So I'm conscious of time, so I suppose wanted to give a couple of little examples of how this can play out in the micro scale for individuals, of how this hierarchical mentality can really affect us. And I think in the Western world, we see this play out so much in comparisonitis, so much with social media, with putting ourselves out there, with this hierarchical way of thinking that in order to be worth anything, we need to be at the top. And this can also play out in perfectionism. And I'm certainly not immune to this, nor beyond it myself. This came up for me so much in writing the book that it had to be perfect in order to have any value whatsoever. And actually, the day before I received the printed copies, 1,000 copies of the book, I found what I considered a really big error in the book. So it was devastating to me because I'm like, oh, it's not perfect. So that was, something that I've had to, as well as lots of things, but that was one example of something I've really had to work on of that's an internalized patriarchy that has to be perfect in order to be of value. We have to be perfect before we can serve, et cetera, et cetera. But it also plays out, I guess, in comparisonitis, particularly with women. We see this. I think that's for me why women's circles were so revolutionary, because we're coming together as one, like this festival, as one. You know, there's no hierarchy here. We're all here to contribute. And similarly, in a women's circle, we're all there to help and heal and support each other. We're not competing like perhaps we might on some levels in a workplace setting. So there's just, I guess, a couple of examples of how it can impact us internally and hold us back from really shining our light and shining bright and doing what we're truly here to do, which is obviously to connect from the heart and shine bright. So I did want to share, I guess, some examples of what we can do to help heal the patriarchy within, some practical things as well as energetic and spiritual type things. But I'm just conscious of time. I know I've got a couple more minutes left. So perhaps, Deb, that might be something we could park as a question for the panel discussion of strategies and practical things we can do to disarm and heal our patriarchy within.
Had to make sure I was off mute. Yes, that sounds like a plan. I appreciate that very, very much. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. That's I love you. I love the sharing of the personal stories and how people are coming to what message they need to deliver, you know, and everyone has a personal journey that results in then stepping out into sharing it beyond. And the power of the women's circle is it's amazing. And I work with the Cherokee elder, and in the Cherokee tradition, they always leave an imperfection. It's tradition to leave in a pot or a basket. She shares a story of it's purposeful that they always leave a little imperfection in it.
Oh, I love that.
I'll have to go get the reason why and share it with you, but I just thought that wisdom that comes, you know, from so many ancient wisdoms is just a lesson we all need. So I thank you. And and yes, I have to, where did we go? I have something to share with you. Whoops. Okay, that wasn't it. It is a screen share. Here we go. That's what I want to share. There we go. That is a certificate of appreciation. I hope you can see that, and you will be emailed that as well. So we thank you for that. And then, yes,